Hi, I'm Sonia Showalter, and today I want to talk to you about the two most common questions I get when someone sees my stitching videos. The two most common questions are, what is that wrapped around your hoop and why? So first I want to talk about why. Now when we first get our machines and we pull out these beautiful clean hoops, they're fine for enjoying your new purchase, for showing off to your friends, but they're not so great for stitching. Why is that? Because when you hoop your fabric with a hoop like this and nothing to grab that fabric around the inner hoop, that fabric is going to slip and slide as that machine stitches your design out. And so your fabric is going like this under that needle and thread. It's getting pulled and tugged, and all kinds of things start happening when that fabric starts to slide. You get gaps between the objects. That's why you see your fabric between certain colors. Outlines might not register properly, so the outline around a foot is not really around the foot. You get puckers. You might even break a needle. All kinds of things can happen. So in the next segment, I'm going to show you how you can fix this. All right, so some of the things we've seen being used are bed wrap, which is, or a bandage wrap. I think they're almost identical. It's a stretchy type of wrap that they use in the clinics. When you get a blood test, they put a Band-Aid or a gauze and then they wrap it to hold it in place. It's kind of stretchy. There's also shelf liner, I've heard people say, that seems to work. I've also in the past used double-sided sticky tape on the inside, which works really well, but then it doesn't keep the tack and you have to keep replacing it. So there are several things that have been used, but I want to show you, because with me it's been an evolving process, I want to show you what I'm using now. All right, so let me show you my hoops. I have these are the 4x4 hoops. This is probably the one you've seen the most often, because I try to hoop my fabric as if the fabric is hoopable, I will hoop the fabric. So this is the one you've probably seen the most, and this one is wrapped with tacky Vilene, and I'll show you in a second. From All Stitch, by the way, it's where I get all of my stabilizer. Allstitch.net or allstitch.com, either one. This also is Vilene. It's a little bit different, and I'll tell you in a second why. And the larger hoop here, like I said, it's an evolving process for me. That as needs present themselves, I might change things up a bit. This is just for you to use as guidelines if you find it helpful, and do your own thing, what works for you. This is my large hoop, and it has cotton quilt batting wrapped around it. This is my 5x7 hoop that's wrapped exactly the same as this one. So let me tell you about the tacky Vilene. This is a roll of 12-inch tacky Vilene. Like I said, I get it from All Stitch. And this is used for certain projects. It's exactly the same water-soluble stabilizer that you would use for lace, except for the fact that this one has a tacky side to it, which is why it comes with this shiny paper to protect that tackiness. So the way to hoop this particular, or the way I hoop this particular Vilene, is by cutting squares or rectangles and peeling off the paper, stretching it on here like a canvas is stretched until it's drum taut. I tack it down, put my hoops together, do my project, and then my project is all done. And instead of peeling off the excess, I just cut the project right out of the hoop like this, and I leave the Vilene stuck right where it is. This one in particular has 2 layers. I can probably do another 2 or 3 layers more, and it just provides a lot of grip. This is the inner hoop, and it's just very good traction for that fabric. So when I pull my fabric taut, it won't slip and slide as the hoop is moving. So that, I just leave it like this because that's good. I've used it for these projects like this, and you can do that too if you happen to do these types of projects. Just don't pull it off of the hoop, and then you'll have a nicely treated hoop. Now this one has been wrapped. It's with the same product, but here's why it's evolving for me. Because I used to only have hoops that look like this, but I haven't done those projects in a while, these particular where I need this stretched across. So I hadn't been doing enough of those, and my hoop needed to have a fresh layer on there. So this is what I decided to do. I don't want to use all of my good Vilene and cut it up into pieces to do this. So I cut this Vilene for these type of projects. I pre-cut it, so I have a stack of pieces ready to go. Why is that left? Oh, I'm trying to line it up with the wrong end of my roll. Okay, so I cut it 9 inches like this. I just cut a long piece so I can then go ahead and cut my pieces to fit my hoop and then stack them and put them away. But I end up with a 3-inch piece over here. And that's leftover. I can't really use that for anything for hooping. And here is my original 3-inch piece that I've begun to cut into 1-inch strips. And so obviously 3-inch strip, you can cut 3 1-inch pieces. And this is what I use to wrap these hoops around and around. And you can do more than one layer if you want. You peel the paper. And you don't want this to be too long. You maybe pieces about this long are good to work with. And then you just stick it to the inside of your hoop. Secure it. Wrap over that end like this to secure the end. And you want to try not to let it stick to itself. And then you just start pulling. It's a little bit stretchy, so you just pull it toward you and overlap about halfway or so. Or you can overlap a little bit more if you want to, but that's about what I've been doing. And you just keep going until your hoop is wrapped. Now obviously this hoop I can't wrap all the way around it. Well, no hoop you can, because it has to have that side that clamps onto the machine. You can't do that side of it. So what I did was, this hoop originally looked like this, but like I said, I needed to refresh my liner here. So, but instead of pulling all that off, I just cleaned it up a little bit, and then I left what was there and wrapped the sides with Vilene, with the strips of Vilene. So that, and of course, you'll want to do a nice, neat job because you don't want it to be bumpy and irregular. And if your hoop happens to have, you put your hoops together and test it out, and if you see a space between the hoops, you can just add a little bit more until it's like a custom fit for that particular hoop. And it'll provide you with all kinds of traction. All right, so this is the largest hoop, and this one, as I said, was covered in quilt batting. So I want to correct myself because I talked about hoops that all have a bracket, so you can't wrap the entire thing, except this is the inner hoop of my largest hoop, so the brackets are a little bit different from these hoops. So I think you understand what I'm saying though. It's the inner hoop that needs to be wrapped, and your machines are going to vary a little bit. See, this is my 4x4 hoop for my multi-needle, And this one with the brackets is the inner hoop. This is the large hoop for my same machine, but the brackets are on the outside. So the inner hoop is easier to wrap because there are no brackets, obviously. So just know that I can see where I made a mistake on that. And so you should, if you have a single needle machine, it might be that much easier for you. So this one is wrapped with 1.5-inch strips of quilt batting. And the reason I did that, like I said, I'm evolving. My process is evolving. I'm not evolving. All right, so this, because I ran out of strips of tacky Vilene, I had to really decide, do I want to cut up my good Vilene or do I need to come up with something else? And it just so happened I had just picked up some batting and realized this would be perfect for what I'm trying to do. So I cut 1.5-inch strips, and like I mentioned earlier, don't make them too long because then they start getting tangled as you go around and around. So just, a little bit long, but not too long. And you start on the inside, secure that cut end, wrap it kind of snug and tight to keep it there. And then you start moving down the length of the hoop. And what I found that works really well is to overlap about halfway of the strip. So hopefully you can see that. So that's about the middle of that strip. So that's where I want to overlap. So you can almost feel where the underside, where this edge is going to be when you feel through the top. And that's, so the edge is under here. You don't want to overlap that edge. You want to come up right alongside it, even though it's underneath. And that way you have a uniform thickness as you go down the length of the hoop. So you get to the end, and we'll pretend this was long enough and you got to the end. And I'll do this quickly. All right, so you get to the end. You may not want to end on the outside, just end it on the inside. And what I ended up doing was putting just a few dots of half Fabri-Tac glue because it's gooey. It's almost, it doesn't soak the fabric. So I love that glue for all kinds of stuff. I just put a few drops there to secure the edge and just held it in place and trimmed off the excess. And you would do that when you get to the end here. If you're adding a piece of a new piece of length here because you ran out, let's say, you can just do your best to overlap it. You might want to secure it with a little dot of glue right here, and then go around and just keep going in the same direction you were going with the same amount of overlap. It's not a science, it's just what I've developed for my own needs. And oh, one more thing, this hoop started out like these other hoops, like I showed you before, with the stretched, tacky Vilene stretched for a project. And see, the front doesn't really have any, it's just the edges where the tacky Vilene was tacked onto the outside of the hoop for the project. The same thing with this hoop started out that way, but it wasn't enough. So I just left what was on there and then wrapped the sides. And then just test your hoop, put it together, and just see if there are any gaps. And those gaps are just terrible culprits for letting your fabric slip. And so you'll want to maybe add a little bit more batting in that area. It might be a little trickier because the batting is a little thicker, of course, than the Vilene. But you'll figure it out for your own needs. And, oh yes, I was trying to think. There was one more thing I wanted to tell you is the added benefit to this that I had not anticipated until I went to use it and thought, oh wow, an even nicer benefit or an additional benefit is when you hoop your fabric, if it's going to, because these large hoops make it even easier for your fabric to slip, even with this much traction. You can hoop your fabric, flip it over to the inside, the excess, and you can actually pin into the edges of your batting, and then flip your fabric back out and secure it so it doesn't fall back in. It gives you all kinds of possibilities for keeping that fabric stable and holding fast while it goes through all of that stitching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more of our videos, find us on YouTube at Sonia Showalter and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.